Okay, so we're continuing on with the Derby Trail, and Gulfstream has the Holy Bull this weekend. Back to the Chamber of Horrors that was the Pegasus World Cup. Good God, that was just a nightmare of a day for me. The only thing that was saving grace was White Barrio coming home and taking the PWC Invitational. But aside from that, boy, it was a tough day. We'll try to rebound with the Holy Bull. It's a grade three. It's the 11th race on Saturday's card, run at a mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds. And it's a small field, but a couple of familiar faces. The Guns Loaded, who just won the Mucho Macho Man at Gulfstream. Ferocious, who ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and was pretty prominent at 2. And then we've got a couple of new shooters. Tapen Street for Brad Cox, and Burnham Square for Ian Wilkes. Just a couple who have had some prominent maiden scores. So it's a small field, but it is pretty well balanced, and I think it does offer. It should be an interesting one to watch for sure. We'll take a look, and you may be surprised to see that I've thrown out Guns Loaded. Now, one of the things about mile and a 16th races at Gulfstream, as well as mile and an 8th races, is they start on a turn. So it's a very difficult proposition, particularly if you want to get up near the lead. Now, there are only 7 horses in this field. That's absolutely true. But Guns Loaded is going to have to work. I think probably a little harder than he did in the Mucho Macho Man. And that's really what it comes down to for me, is that that last race, he had everything his own way. Nobody challenged him whatsoever. And you couple that with the fact that Treating in Rome was really getting the Guns Loaded in the stretch. Now, you could say that maybe he was geared down a little bit. I don't know. But visually, it's never a good thing to watch, to see a horse who's wiring a field kind of begging for the finish line. And as an example of that, maybe you see what happened with American Promise in the Southwest Stakes. That's exactly what his maiden effort was prior to the Southwest Stakes. He was on the lead, he wired the field, had a publisher, was breathing down his neck. He was praying for the finish line, and what happened? He got in the Southwest Stakes, and he had every chance to overtake Speed King, and he couldn't do it. Now, 2 different races, 2 different sets of horses, all true, but I just can't believe that Guns Loaded is going to get that type of dream setup again. This field is a little, I think, is deeper talent-wise, and he's probably going to be pretty short. You'll note we're doing this on Sunday night, so we don't have odds yet. But I venture to guess Guns Loaded is going to be pretty short, and I just think he's beatable in this type of scenario. Kinetic Control for Dale Romans is also going to probably make things difficult for Guns Loaded. I think he'll want to get on the lead. Dale loves to send his horses. He's all about speed, and he just loves to put them out on the lead. Kinetic Control, there's a couple of things that are a little that make him dubious in this field. He is by Not This Time. I don't think the distance is going to be a problem, but note he costs less than his stud fee, and that's never something you want to see. Second thing is kind of another example of pretty much had it his own way last time, and those fractions were awful slow. And now you're stepping up in class, and you've got a much more a deeper field. And while he's on the lead, I just don't think he's good enough to wire this field. So to me, Kinetic Control is a toss. Tapen Street for Brad Cox certainly makes a lot of sense. Now, interestingly enough, his class rating and his race rating from his maiden score are identical to, guess who? Patch Adams, when he broke his maiden. Tapen Street, I thought, had a much better effort than Patch Adams did, although maybe visually not quite as impressive. First of all, he was in a really big field, so he knows how to negotiate a big field. Second thing is, he was Bob Moe in his maiden score was looking to be a runaway winner. I think he had about a 5-6 length lead going into the stretch at Churchill, and Tapen Street looked very well beaten at the back, or about mid pack, and going to the top of the turn. And he got it into gear, and he was deceptively fast. He didn't visually look like he was really eating up the ground, but he was, and overtook Bob Moe to get the win. For my money, at 7 furlongs, I thought that was more impressive than what Patch Adams did. Now, again, we're in this same scenario with Brad Cox's horses, these maidens going into stakes races. They just haven't done it lately. Hot Property, Patch Adams, Admiral Dennis. They're just, chasing the filly. So I'm very reticent to get excited about Tapen Street here. Everything is sets up, and you do get Luis Saez, who left guns loaded, who won the Mucho Macho Man. So there's some expectations for a 7-figure purchase without a doubt. And I think Tapen Street is a very good horse. Looks to be at this stage. Can he progress to 2 turns without a problem? Sure. It's entirely possible. I'm just looking at the history of Brad Cox's barn this year, really more than anything else. But I think he's certainly a horse you have to consider, and is a top contender in here. He's Not Joking had been run on up in Woodbine, had been running on Polytrack, and then made the move in the Kentucky Jockey Club. And usually I'm all over the all-weather to dirt angle. I love horses who make that move. They usually run a pretty big race. He's Not Joking broke pretty poorly, and really that was it for He's Not Joking. They all just sort of swallowed him up, and he really didn't have anywhere to go. And what was especially troubling to me was he didn't have an answer. He didn't rally. He didn't make any progress, and it kind of looked like just sort of threw in the towel. And it's not the type of competitive spirit I like to see from a horse. And the other thing is, he is by practical joke, going around 2 turns. So that's enough for me to let He's Not Joking go. Now, Burnham Square for Ian Wilkes, I really like in this spot. He's got the perfect progression. Class rating is increasing as the race rating is, meaning the better the competition's getting, the better he does. Granted, it was a maiden that he scored in, but he did it very impressively, and it was a better maiden field than the prior 2 efforts. So to me, it's an indication of a horse who is getting better, and I just really liked what I saw. You don't see that out of Ian Wilkes maidens. They usually take a while, and so I think that's a really positive factor in Burnham Square's favor. I just really like the effort. The tab looks good, and provided he takes a move forward, I think you're going to probably get a price, especially with Guns Loaded and Tapen Street, as well as Ferocious in this race. I think he should be sitting off the leaders, and the 7-hole isn't going to bother me a whole lot. If this was a bigger field of maybe 10, 12, 13 horses like in the at the Pegasus World Cup, then it's more of an issue. But I think he can probably recover from that and get himself into decent position. So to me, I like Burnham Square, who will likely be a price and like probably the 3rd or 4th choice. I just really like that effort, and I think in this field, for the reasons stated, he's one that I think is laying in the weeds. Now, Ferocious is a horse that finally they put the blinkers on this horse. I have been waiting for this for 3 starts. Every race you watch out of Ferocious was basically the same. He got the maiden score, and When a horse just has natural talent, you can overcome some greenness or whatnot when you're facing an inferior field. But as the competition gets stiffer, those things really become prominent and they're harder to overlook. And if you look, every race with Ferocious is the same thing. You see him in the stretch, you see him poised, looks like he's about to kick it into high gear, and then he doesn't. And he just sort of idles or languishes for just enough time. But so when he does get it into gear, it's too late and he ends up second. Now in the Breeders' Cup, he had a couple of problems there. He had number one, a track that was favoring speed. So, and he got kind of stuck at the back and really had no hope of doing any better than what he did in that race. No hope to win it, certainly. Not at Del Mar, not in that scenario. But he did get it going, and he ended up finishing fifth. And so he's a horse that was a big-time disappointment at 2. And, watching the way he runs, you think, God, if they just put the blinkers on, maybe that's going to help. Well, they finally have. And I think that has to help a horse that clearly has a lot of talent. Now, the other problem he has is that running mid-pack the way he does at Gulfstream in the configuration for 1.16 miles, it's going to be a tough ask. It may be very similar to what you saw with Locked in the Pegasus World Cup. He ran a great race, but he just, you just can't win it from behind at Gulfstream. So the positives are, if with blinkers, perhaps he'll be a little more forwardly placed. And from the 2-hole, that would put him in good position. And then I think he certainly has the natural speed and the talent to win this race. So to me, Ferocious is the equipment change. I never get real excited about it except when you see a horse like Ferocious. And so I think that's going to make a big difference here. And he's one of my top 2 with Burnham Square. And finally, we'll look at Burning Glory. Well, as a late runner, he's up against it at Gulfstream. We know this. His last effort was pretty impressive. He made a move early, and which I always love to see, particularly from late runners. And he was just mowing him down at the top of the turn. Problem is, once he got to the turn, he couldn't keep it going, per se. He did win the race. He did get up, but he had to fight all the way down the stretch. And it kind of looked to me like one of those things where he used his best run to get himself into position. So Bill Mott, of course, love him. My favorite trainer, probably. And if anybody can, keep a horse moving forward, it's certainly Bill Mott. And Burning Glory, has all the earmarks of a horse who could be serious on the Derby Trail. But at Gulfstream, it's just a track that isn't working in his favor. So to me, there's some limitations there and some inherent limitations, let's say. And so to me, Burning Glory is probably more a candidate for under. So we take a look at our wagering strategy, and we're going to go with Burnham Square to win. And then we'll do a 7-2 cold exacta with Ferocious, and then we'll do a 2-7 cold exacta. And then we'll do a saver with 7 on top with 3 and 6, Tapen Street and Burning Glory. Trifecta, we'll do 7-2 with 3-6, then 2-7 with 3-6, then 2-7 with 3-6 with 2-7, and then finally, nice typing, Alex, for the last one is 2-7, 2-7 all. Because I think there are, this is one of those races, it's not, there's a couple, I think there's a lot of ways, a lot of horses that could finish underneath, but I think these are the top 4 in my opinion, and I'm going to go with a little value. I think we can in this type of spot for the reasons stated, and I think Burnham Square looks to me like a real sleeper on the Derby Trail. Hope this analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy. Wish you the best of luck as always. We will have more content. I believe we've got the Withers this weekend from Aqueduct, and I believe the Bob Lewis from Santa Anita. So we'll have individual postings on all the Derby preps, of course, and then later in the week we'll try to have some kind of a sequence and with best bets and value plays, depending upon the track we choose. Probably going to be Gulfstream, and like I said, hopefully we can do better than we did Pegasus World Cup Day. I hope any of you did well, because that was a real tough card, and it was not nearly as form-fitting as it appeared on paper. So anyway, turn the page. We'll move on with the Holy Bull, and if you do like content like this, of course, please like and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who have recently come on board. We really appreciate it, and much more content to follow as we make our way towards the Kentucky Derby. So that's it from here. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.